He didn't look perturbed. Faith thought about cows for a while. They fed their calves out of their own bodies, then fed the land with their manure. Eventually, they fed the land with themselves. Maybe the Mother Mound liked having cows around. Not being nearly as spiritual as Jo, she figured her revelation about the holiness of cows was the deepest thought she was likely to have that afternoon. "Let's go, Jo. If we hustle, we can get a look at our work site this afternoon. Dr. Mailer said he'd be there to meet everybody as they rolled into town." Jo Wolfe-Mantooth raked a farewell glance over a landscape that had been held holy for centuries. Millennia, in fact. He could see a far distance from up here on top of Nanawaya, and he was glad to get the chance to visit the Mother Mound. The afternoon light was already a little softer than it had been at noon, and he knew the quiet summer air would be even quieter soon as sunset approached. Perhaps Jo's senses were sharper than most men's, or perhaps nature revealed herself more fully to him simply because he paid attention. As he followed Faye down the mound's flank, he gave one last look at the grassy field and the fecund swamp and the broad sky, and behind him the towering mound. Was this spot more sacred than the glass-clear Gulf waters around the island home he shared with Faye? More God-touched than the cool green Appalachians or the familiar expanses of his native Oklahoma? All those places seemed holy to him. He saw no difference. It never occurred to Jo that perhaps the holiness lay in a man's appreciation of nature's gifts. Perhaps those places were more sacred, simply because he'd been there. The route from Nanawaya to their work site had led Faye and Jo through a landscape of farmland and pastures and piney woods, without the necessity of passing through Philadelphia, the only town of any size in Neshoba County, Mississippi, or in most of the surrounding counties for that matter. Not being a fan of city living, Faye didn't mind. She liked the warm and fertile look of the place. She would have preferred to be at home in Florida, but she wanted an education and she needed to earn a living. Joyeuse Island, with its booming population of precisely 2, didn't offer much in the way of opportunity on either count. So she was happy enough for the opportunity to spend her summer here while earning graduate credit and money too. The map in Jo's hands took them directly to a neat brick farmhouse that looked exactly as Faye's boss had described it. A cluster of people milling around in the field out back looked a great deal like archaeologists. Their worn clothing had the requisite ground-in dirt in all the right places, and their faces were tan beneath hats that provided some solar protection, but not enough. It seemed that Faye had found her co-workers. As she and Jo approached, she caught snatches of a conversation that sounded a lot more animated and cordial than it looked. An outsider would have interpreted the scientist's lack of eye contact as unfriendliness, but Faye knew better. These people, out of long habit, rarely lifted their glance from the ground, not when they were standing in a known occupation site, where the soil was peppered with fascinating stuff. The young archaeologist who had found the site thought it might date to the Middle Woodland period, which could make it as old as Nanawaya herself. Faye recognized a few faces from school. Dr. Sid Mailer, the principal investigator and her former lithics professor, stood, as he always did, in the center of a knot of his graduate students. Not for the first time, she missed her mentor, Dr. Magda Stockard, who might have directed this project if she hadn't been recovering from the difficult delivery of her first child. Faye liked Dr. Mailer, but she wished she could work for Magda again. A tall, sunburnt man in his late 40s, Dr. Mailer's prematurely white hair made him stand out in any crowd. Bodie Steele, a freckle-faced country boy who might